Hi, I'm Mike Papantonio, and this is America's Lawyer. The number of child labor violations in this country is rising at an alarming rate, with thousands of minors illegally being put to work in situations that get them killed, that get them maimed. And the CEO of Boeing announced last month that he's stepping down as safety problems threaten the company, but the resignation isn't going to fix the problems. And it certainly isn't going to hold anybody accountable when there needs to be a criminal investigation. And a man in Texas has legally changed his name in order to run for president. We'll tell you about all this clever plan. All that and more, it's all coming up. Don't go anywhere. America's Lawyer starts right now. Manufacturing company in Tennessee has become the latest in a long line of companies to be fined for violating child labor laws. The number of child labor violations in this country has hit the highest point we've ever seen in 2 decades. I've got Ring of Fire's Farron Cousins to join me to talk about it. It seems like every week we're doing another story. Either the story is about the big scam, and that's bring in unaccompanied minors from Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, put them to work, pay them slave wages, put them in situations where they're losing arms or they're being killed, right? I mean, this is a weekly story now.
It really is, and that's why it's so important to keep talking about these. You know, the Labor Department, all the way back in September, said we've got over 5,000 incidents here where we've got children, sometimes as young as 14, that are operating heavy machinery that you typically need a special license to handle. But we've got 14-year-old kids out here, which is what just happened in Tennessee, operating this equipment. They don't know how to use it. They have not been fully trained on it, but these companies are doing it and basically getting away with it because a small fine to pay for violating these laws is absolutely nothing. It's the cost of doing business for these folks.
6,000 minors working in violation of child labor laws. That's where we are right now. And so, you know, I don't know how to say this any clearer. I say it all the time. Why the hell can't we be realistic about what's happening with immigration? Why is it that we can't see that as all this was taking place, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce was pushing this administration, we need more immigrants, we need more immigrants. The Associated Industries, where every major corporation in the country was quietly saying, we got to get more immigrants in here. And at the same time, you had the talking heads making it look like it was some kind of big compassionate move. Right. We're trying to save these people from awful places. Well, you know, we've taken them and now there's just a tool. I mean, they're a disposable tool. That's really what we have. And it's going to get worse before it gets better, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think people need to understand that these migrants that are coming in, even the ones on these temporary work visas, are taken advantage of by these companies. Like you said, typically they will pay them under the table, which means we can pay them less than minimum wage. And that's another benefit they have, by the way, with hiring these 14 and 15 and 16-year-olds, because even if they're regular U.S. citizens, you can still pay somebody under the age of 16 below minimum wage for I think about 6 months.
Is it 6? Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is.
So you save so much money.
And then move them out after 6 months, or they're injured after 6 months. They're so plentiful.
Yeah.
But it used to be corporations. We had to export the work, right? We had to go to India or China or Mexico, and so, and the industry was. The corporations were saving tons of money, putting American workers out of work. But that wasn't even enough. You see, that wasn't even enough. Because in India, they started getting smart. They said, no, you know what, you want to come here, we're going to start raising what you got to pay. So industry now says, well, we'll figure out another way. We'll open the borders, let everybody in, and in there we got a whole new workforce, right?
Yeah, and this actually goes all the way back, you know, about 20 years to the Bush administration.
Oh, absolutely.
At that time, Bush was talking about, you know, we got to start restricting immigration into the country. And the U.S. Chamber stepped in on behalf of Tyson Foods, because we did a segment on it 20 years ago.
Right.
They stepped in and they said, no, we need these people. And ever since then, that's really been the policy. You see the politicians, they use immigration for political benefit, saying, oh, I'm going to build a wall, or I'm going to shut this down and issue an executive order. But nobody actually really does anything meaningful because the corporations behind the scenes say, no, I've got to have these people in here because this is my cheap labor, and you're going to cut into my profits if you actually do something.
About 20 years ago, well, it was Bill Clinton. We started hearing globalization, how it's going to really increase opportunity for American workers. Bullshit. All it was going to do is increase opportunity for big corporations. Yeah. And when you see these folks meeting in Sweden or Paris, France, and they're behind closed doors meeting about what's our next move, it doesn't include us, okay? It doesn't include the folks watching this show. It includes the folks that are the captains of industry, the big banks, the big corporations, everybody who has a lot of money and a lot of power to throw on. Those are the folks that benefit by globalization. This is an example right here. But they've sold globalization like, oh, this is the panacea. This is so great for everybody. And as a matter of fact, if you're critical of it, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, how can you be critical of globalization? Well, look at Detroit, okay? Look at Chicago. Look at the big cities that have lost everything in this thing called globalization and never recovered. So now, rather than sending stuff out of the country and saying, China, can you build this cheap? India, can you build this cheap? Hey, just let them all in. Let everybody in and take as much advantage of them as you can. Just do everything you can to take advantage of.
Yeah, and the companies get the big press because, oh, look how great we are. We're hiring 40,000 of these people. Give them a
Tyson
better chance.
Foods, right?
Yeah.
We're they go on the news and they say, we're hiring 40,000 people, and they get so much pushback that they say, okay, we'll just start closing our facilities. We won't hire the 40,000. They're going to do it anyway. Yeah. They're going to do it anyway, but they're making it look like, well, your position on this has caused us to close 3 or 4 facilities. A new report's found that the DNC is paying millions of dollars to a group that also works to help major corporations fight labor unions. The DNC pledged years ago to never do business with any group that fought unions. But the pledge, well, apparently means nothing. It's like the story that we did just the other day. What you hear about there, what you hear, we're going to do this. It has great appeal, doesn't it? Yeah. Where Democrats come out, we're going to stop this abuse of the labor unions. And then when you dig in, this story by Sludge, by the way, is incredible. The research they did on this is absolutely phenomenal. Pick it up.
Yeah, you've got this group, the Global Strategy Group, that contracts with the DNC, pay them millions of dollars to go out there and do some advocacy here, do some, kind of research for us there, all sorts of things, get us a little bit of legal representation. But they also are working with some of the biggest union busters in this country. Mm-hmm. I'm talking Amazon and Starbucks and even Google, and of course the law firms that they're associated with that are by extension getting money from the DNC as well. Just the worst of the worst that you and I have stood right here and gone after these law firms because these are the biggest pro-corporate law firms in this country.
These are the people I go to war with all the time. Covington Burling. I mean, good God, look at the opioid crisis, okay? When I was handling that case, it was Covington Burling on the other side of everything. The industry was killing 150 people a day. And working at Covington Burling was Eric Holder, who was the ex-attorney general under the Obama administration, who, oh, by the way, we gave everything to. Said, Eric, here it is, go prosecute somebody. 0 prosecutions, okay? So now the DNC, they're out they're out saying, we're the Labor Party. We are good for labor. And we now find out that the people they're working with are doing everything they can to undermine labor in this country, right?
Yeah.
Did I get that? Did I overstate that?
No, absolutely not. They're paying these firms that are also the same ones that go out there and say, hey, we will teach you, the management of this company, how to spy on people's social media to make sure they're not talking about unions. We'll give you the talking points to hold these big meetings where you tell them how evil labor unions are.
Yeah.
I mean, that is literally right here in this report. And that is who the DNC is contracting with. We're working with these people who are actively, once again, going against our interests and our stated goals and our pledge. We said we'd never do it, but we're doing it.
Okay, if I look down this list of who's who of these corporations, of these law firms that are secretly in the dark, behind closed doors, working to undermine labor, out front you have, at least we know, look, we know where the Republicans stand, right?
Yeah.
We know they're never going to help labor. But here you got Democrats, Blue Dog Democrats, Wall Street Democrats out there with the audacity to say, we're all for you. Let's sing Kumbaya together. And then Sludge finds out, no, that's completely nonsense. They talk about Global Strategy Group. The Global Strategy Group, the DNC's put huge money behind. They are one of the worst. Covington Burling's another one. These firms are people that we see on the other side of our table all the time because they're always working for corporations. And oh, by the way, here's the other part of the story that I think is critically important if people would please listen. This is where all the federal judge appointments come from.
Yeah.
These law firms. When you hear, it's a Democratic appointment, really? That's going to be wonderful. That's nonsense. I'm always working on the others. I'm always seeing it firsthand. And I'm saying, this lawyer, he was a great Democrat. Well, he came from Covington Burling. He came from these very law firms that are secretly doing the dirty work for the DNC. And again, we know where the Republicans stand, right? There's no guesswork, but we're being told, you can trust us, let's sing Kumbaya and join hands. We're all about labor.
Yeah. Look, the lawyers that come out of these firms to end up becoming judges, they're occasionally, not even all the time, occasionally good on the social issues. But when it comes to the environment, they're going to go for polluters most of the time. Consumer issues, they're going to go corporate. Even civil rights issues, they typically aren't very good on those. But it's just, a handful of social issues where they'll get it right. Other than that, these people are absolutely horrific.
If there is any, and this really pisses me off, when we get these people that send comments to the staff, how dare you attack you're making this up. No, if there's any doubt, go read. The DNC is still contracting with firms that fight against unions. It's Sludge. A really great investigative report is done, and you will see how out of one side of the mouth, the Dems are saying this. In secret, they're doing something completely different, right?
Yeah. They're more than happy to get the money from the labor unions, get the endorsements of the labor unions, but behind the scenes, they're actually funding the people that are trying to kill the unions.
Labor unions get sucked into it all the time. The leadership gets sucked into it all the time. Like surely they wouldn't lie to us. Surely they're telling us the truth. Well, they're not. And this report, to me, buddy, this says it all.
Yeah.
If there's any doubt about this story or that we're saying something inappropriately critical of the Democrats, you go read this story and you tell me that we didn't get this right. The CEO of Boeing announced that he's leaving the company at the end of this year. His announcement came after a string of mechanical failures on the Boeing jets, which employees were warning about for years. They said, this is coming, this is coming. But it was during a time when there was cost cutting and cutting corners at every step of the way. This is an industry, Farron, that is making so much money they can't spend it all, right? They are the weapons war industry. That's what this story, I wish they'd gotten more details on it, but they're the weapons war industry. They don't make money on building jets. They make money on selling missiles that blow the hell out of 3/4 of the world. That's what they do. Yeah. And so they're making a ton of money, but they still want to cut corners so they can pay this cat an exorbitant, obscene bonus every year while the worker keeps getting cut and cut and cut. Pick it up.
Or worse, depending on what happens to the workers, yes, as we've seen. But like you said, you got over 150 employees for Boeing that in the last couple years have sounded the alarm to regulators saying, hey, listen, They're cutting corners here. They're using shoddy materials. They're not following regulations. This is subpar material on this jet that will fail. Will you do something? 150 employees telling regulators this, and regulators say, nah, I mean, we've got all these big contracts with Boeing. We're kind of bailing them out already with the 737 MAX. So we're just going to let it be. And of course, what happens? People die.
Yeah. Okay, 350 deaths just in 2 fatal crashes. 350 deaths. Not to say what else is. And okay, so not one time have they been criminally prosecuted. Okay, they always get these sweetheart deals. We're going to defer prosecution. Can you get it right? No, Mr. CEO, you're not going to prison. If you killed that many people, you'd be in prison tomorrow. But we have a Department of Justice that is so tied to white collar. I mean, here's what happens. They're looking for jobs. You know, you got lawyers there that are looking for jobs.
Yeah.
Either that or the lawyers with the Justice Department are career lawyers. They're tired. They don't have to work that hard. They're a GS, whatever the hell that is. And they're making all the money that they need, so they don't do anything to go after these folks. The other part, like I said, two different divisions. One is the career person. Hell, why work hard, right? I'm going to be paid anyway. And then the other folks that are looking for jobs with corporations like this. So they kill all these people, no criminal prosecution, just like we saw with opioids. They killed 150 people a day for decades, Farron. The Department of Justice had everything they needed to prosecute, but they didn't prosecute. And we see it constantly. It's just a way of life in this country. But in this case, the 737 MAX 9, what a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're dealing with a company that there is no question they were intentionally making bad airplanes.
No. Which is the part of the criminal intent.
Right.
Which flows all the way to the top.
Absolutely.
Right?
And these non-prosecution agreements from the DOJ are actually only meant for basically first-time offenders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, okay, this is your first time doing something bad. You didn't actually even hurt anybody, so we will give you a non-prosecution agreement here. But with companies like Boeing, these are repeat offenders. They should not even qualify for these non-prosecutorial agreements, but instead, this guy's getting off. He's leaving the company just as they need leadership, and he says, well, I can't do that. And I guarantee you, you're right. At the end of this year, he is going to get a massive bonus as he's walking out that door, even with the giant body count behind him.
And the whistleblower is going to be murdered.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the end of the story. Until the message goes out to white-collar corporate America that, yes, you will be prosecuted. We will put you in a line and perp walk you. You will spend 20 years in prison for making these kinds of decisions. Until we do that, we're always going to see the Department of Justice, they're special. They went to Harvard. They went to Yale. They don't really look like thugs. Well, they're worse than thugs.
Yeah.
They're worse than thugs. And we give them this free pass. And because of that, the criminality simply perpetuates itself. It becomes part of our societal norm. Oh, he's not going to go to prison. You know, 350 people, he's not going to go to prison. But by God, you kill 350 people, you're going under the prison for most people. After hitting a record low in President Biden's first year in office, while white-collar prosecutions from the Department of Justice have slowly started to increase, the only problem is the worst offenders keep getting away with it. That's the story, right? Pick up the story. Yeah, do you remember after the burn down, financial burn down, the Wall Street stole $8 trillion from mom and pop. And then we had Obama comes in, I'm going to do something about this. This is going to stop and some people are going to be prosecuted. You remember that?
Yep.
It's one reason I jumped. Do you remember me getting up first thing in the morning, going on Fox News of all places to defend Obama because I was so convinced that he was going to do something meaningful about all this. I mean, that was my talking point. How do we not do something about this? Time after time we heard that was his point. Not just him, but virtually every president that runs. We're going to do something. We're going to clean up the white-collar criminal problem in this country.
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? After that was done, he let virtually everybody go. None of those bankers, not one single banker went to prison. The documents and the conduct was overwhelming. I mean, it was criminality from top to bottom. Everybody walked free. It's just the new norm, isn't it?
It is. And, on top of that, a couple years into Obama's administration, we had the BP Deepwater Horizon.
Good. I forgot about
Obama
that.
came out and said, "You just tell me who's ass to kick." Those are his exact words. Tell me who's ass to kick.
Right.
Well,
As if
nobody got their ass kicked. Everybody got off scot-free, even with all of the horrible things we learned. And this cycle just continues itself. And so, this story comes out. It says, hey, look, we've actually had an uptick in white-collar prosecutions. The DOJ actually prosecuted 9 more people.
9.
9.
Not 90, but 9.
9 more than we did the year before. So, hey, we're winning. But then, as Public Citizen points out, you look at the numbers and you realize, wait a minute, you're not actually prosecuting the big corporate people. You're prosecuting small business owners.
Put that in perspective.
People with less than 50 employees. You're going after the little local pizza joint on the corner, but you call that a corporate prosecution. Meanwhile, you've got the bankers, you've got the Boeing CEOs, you've got the pharma CEOs. They're killing people. And, we like them, but we're going to get the little, clothing shop around the corner.
76% of the prosecutions were for corporations that had fewer than 50 employees. Okay? The rest of the prosecutions, there weren't any. I mean, if you had 1,000 employees, you got something called deferred prosecution. Explain to the viewers what that means.
Yeah, this is basically the slap on the wrist. That is the DOJ coming to you and saying, listen, we know deep down you're good people, so we're not going to hold you accountable. There's going to be a fine, so give us some money. And that's what the DOJ loves their fun money. And they get to spend that money that they bring in. That is essentially their big piggy bank. And so they would rather get the money, buy themselves, new offices, new company cars, new computers.
Cool SUVs.
Exactly. And that is what they do, because we've done that story too. But then these companies say, okay, well, we won't do it again. 2 years later, they'll be back in front of those DOJ lawyers saying, okay, we did it again. Well, don't worry, because I know you've got those big government contracts. So once again, here's your other fine, and don't do it again that we can see.
Because they look like exactly the guy, the sociopath, sitting across the table from them.
Yeah.
Okay? The sociopath who makes decisions, we're going to kill 150 people a day with opioids, knowing it's going to kill 150 people. That we're going to allow Roundup to kill thousands of people all over the country. We're going to allow talcum powder that's infected with asbestos to kill thousands of people. These people get away genuinely with murder. But they look like the folks at the DOJ. They're dressed up in suits. They have white shirts on. They went to Harvard and Yale. And the guy at the DOJ says, if I play my cards right, maybe I can get a job here. And then the guy working for a career says, I don't need to spend any time doing this. Hell, I'm going to make whatever I make by not doing anything.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, you've got the little pizza joint around the corner. The guy that owns it lets his 13-year-old kid run the cash register for a couple hours, and they'll pop him for child labor violations and prosecute him and say, look at what we've done. White-collar prosecutions are through the roof because we got 9 extra small business owners behind bars.
Yeah, like that's a big victory.
Yeah.
Until you put them in prison, this culture will never change.
Yep.
Is if you let them, HSBC, I just wrote a book, it's called Suspicious Activity, where these big banks were washing money for terrorists and drug cartels, okay? Washing money. HSBC admitted doing it. They signed the document. Yes, we did it. We knew what we were doing. We made billions of dollars. We knew soldiers were going to be killed, contractors were going to be killed. We did it anyway. You know what you know what Eric Holder did with that? Fined them $1.6 billion. They've made $100 billion. Fined them $1.6 billion like that was a big victory. Like, oh boy, we really made them pay. Nobody went to prison. And that's the new norm in this country right now. You just can't shake that new norm. A man in Texas has legally changed his name to literally anybody else. That's in quotes. In order to run for president, he said that he made the change to highlight the fact that most Americans want anybody besides Biden or anybody besides Trump to be president for the next year. And he says, you know what? I look at the numbers. there's a lot of people that will vote for me. Go ahead.
I mean, if you really had him on all 50 state ballots and people just saw, oh, literally anybody, hell yeah, I'm going to vote. I mean, this guy could become president if he were on all the ballots. And I do think this is a humorous way, and to be honest, he's serious about it. He's filed with the FEC, but it's a humorous way to bring to light this big issue that we do have, which is
300 million Americans.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's ahead in the polls at any given point. Not all, but most Americans still say, yeah, I'll vote for this guy over this guy, but I really don't want either of them.
Yeah.
I want new people with new ideas, because when you're running the same two people you did 4 years ago, those aren't new ideas. It's not a way to move the country forward. It's a way to either put us back to 4 years ago or continue what we've got. And everybody says, we want new.
Yeah, he's counting on the fact that 60% of the American public says they're not at all enthusiastic about the choices they have. Not at all. He's saying, well, okay, have Biden, Trump, and literally anybody else on the third rung, and I'm probably going to get a lot of votes.
I imagine he would. I mean, even writing in, which is one of the things he's actually encouraging people to do if he's not able to get full ballot access, is just write it in, because now that that's my name, if you write it in, that could count as a vote towards him. So it's clever. It is very clever.
He's a disabled veteran. He's a veteran and
a teacher.
And a teacher. The guy's not a nutcase. He actually understands there is that movement outside that says, wait a second, you got 300 million Americans, and these two guys are our choice? Really? Farron Cousins, thanks for joining me, okay?
Thank you.
That's all for this week, but all these segments are going to be posted right here on this channel in the coming weeks. Make sure you subscribe. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where we tell you stories every week that corporate media can't tell you. They literally can't tell you, because their advertisers won't let them, and they'll lose advertising dollars if they do. Or their political connections are so Democrat or so Republican that they can't even think about coloring outside the lines, because they'll lose that influence. You know what? We color outside the lines every week here, and we hope you'll join us for that. See you next time.
That it had helped dirty money flow through its branches around the world, including at least 800...
Plaintiffs allege that the defendants provided money and medical goods to terrorist groups Hezbollah and Jaish al-Mahdi.
This is a well-organized business for these individuals that carry out these attacks. Terrorism is a business, and they run it like a business.
They knew about what was going on for a decade. They absolutely, no question about it, knew that HSBC was washing money. They had every reason to understand it was for terrorism and it was for drug cartels. Took no action whatsoever.
These banks are involved. Their accounts are connected, and they're using them to mask the transactions. The more complicated they can make the transactions, the more distance they can put between the bad guys and a seemingly legitimate purpose of these funds.
They pay $1.9 billion, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what they've made, and nobody goes to prison. These CEOs, these bankers that made this decision, they're safe at home. They know what they've done. It's resulted in the death of Americans, contractors and soldiers, not just hundreds, but thousands. And we look the other way because they don't look like criminals. The die is cast. The people that are responsible are on Wall Street.
And they don't look like criminals. It's almost a suspension of disbelief. Sometimes I'll have people call me and say, is this real? Do they really get away with this? Yeah, they do.